What's up, guys? Welcome to Down in Duval, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the NFL as a whole. I'm your host, Josiah, and today we have a special guest with us. Devin Jackson is a seasoned sports and betting producer and writer who has covered college sports for the Philly Inquirer and has previously worked for NewOrleans.com and WTAJ News. And he holds a degree from Lindenwood University. In this episode, we'll be focusing on one of the most exciting aspects of this upcoming NFL draft, the quarterback. Devin will be joining us to discuss and rank the quarterbacks. We'll explore the strengths and weaknesses of each prospect and analyze how they might fit into the NFL and the league as a whole. So get ready to dive deep into the world of quarterback prospects and join us as we get down to Duval. How's it going, Devin? How are you doing?
Good, man. Just for kind of the draft and getting some more prospects that get to like prior to the Senior Bowl, prior to the NFL draft combine or scout combines. We're trying to finish up and obviously track of whose players are visiting who and who's getting brought in top 30 visits. Uh, Stay on top of all that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So let's just go ahead and start with what's your overall feel of this draft class? Because I personally think it's much better than last year's, but it's obviously not one of the best draft classes we've seen in a long time. Like if you look at 2024 next year, it looks like it's going to be significantly better than this year unless something drastic changes over college next season. But there's still a handful of good prospects. There's some upside guys. There's also some other guys who just might be career backups. What's your take on this draft class, quarterback wise?
At quarterback, it definitely has obviously a lot of first round talent than last year, but I think there's no I don't like throwing around the word generational. I don't feel like there's that type of prospect where it's same player on one's board. I think the two guys in Bryce AJ Stroud have separated them from the pack a little bit, but there's still people that are willing to bet on like Will Levis and willing to bet on Anthony Richardson's upside. So I feel like in this particular class, there's not a guy that stands above the rest and everyone points to is like, okay, that's obviously the number one pick because we don't know where Carolina is going to go at this point in time. So I think that's kind of the first thing I noticed. And then second, of like the tier 2, 3, and 4 quarterbacks, there's a lot of older guys, like guys that are more than like 23 years old. So I mean you have a guy like DTR who's been around for a bit. Hendon Hooker's obviously 25 years old. Jaron Hall's 24 years old. Stetson Bennett is up there in age. So a lot of the guys after like probably the top 5 or 6 players. I mean, if you include Hooker in the top five, there's quite a bit of age difference between some of the players versus the tier 2 and 3 quarterbacks. So what does that mean draft prospect wise? I don't think it means a ton. I mean, a lot of those guys are older, except for Hooker, are seen as more of day 2 and day 3 guys anyway. So I don't think it necessarily will scare teams off, but I just thought it was an interesting nugget that the guys after the top 4 players, that people have in various orders, or maybe top 5 if you include Hooker in that. There are significant age difference between who might go first round and versus some of these day 2 and day 3 players.
Yeah, that extra COVID year they gave college prospects has really thrown off the NFL draft the past couple of years. Because last year, Kenny Pickett, almost every quarterback who was considered a major player last year went to the Senior Bowl because they all had that COVID year. They had all been in college for a long time. Same thing's kind of gone on this year. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, they've been pretty quick. Anthony Richardson as well. The main guys at the top tend to be on the younger side still, but there's a lot of potentially good talent that I've seen throughout the draft that's getting on the older side of things, which it's going to be interesting to see how NFL teams truly do value that. Because if you have a guy like Hendon Hooker, who he's going to be 26 before he even takes a snap of football in the NFL, how do teams value that? Because I've seen some people say that they draft Hendon Hooker to the Saints and let him sit for a year. And it's like, if you're drafting a guy that old, you'd kind of want him to be able to step in immediately and be as pro ready as possible. but I don't even. We'll talk more about it later. But I don't even think Hendon Hooker is super NFL ready, considering he played in a some say gimmick offense at Tennessee, very quarterback friendly. His pocket presence isn't my favorite thing in the world, to put it nicely. And that's just kind of the thing. Like Will Levis, too. Will Levis is a bit on the older side as well. And he's considered a high ceiling guy. So it's just going to be interesting to see how NFL teams value the age factor. Because if they value age factor, Anthony Richardson is only, I think he just turned 22. He's either 21 or 22. He's on the younger side. He's got the crazy ceiling. So I just think it'll be really interesting to see how teams factor age, because there are a lot of older prospects, but there still are some younger prospects in this class.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fascinating discussion because, like, obviously, you're investing a first round pick in a quarterback. Obviously, the added bonus is the 5th year option, but maybe it's not an added bonus, because like for most of the quarterbacks, I know we just went through it with like Daniel Jones and players like that or on 5th year options. Um, Sometimes you don't need the 5th year option to know if the quarterback is good enough. But I mean, if you're taking a guy that's not going to start day one, that's when the 5th year option becomes obviously crucial and really depending on the landing spot with a lot of these quarterbacks. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, um, it just really depends on the team values. So like like for me, like when I look at like a recent pairing I saw was like Hendon Hooker to the Vikings. Well, the Vikings are a team that love young guys. They like drafting young players. They don't like drafting older, later developmental players. So would Hooker even fit their philosophy? So I, things like that are interesting to kind of watch and see like who do the teams tend to draft, previously on the last couple of years. Does age really factor into that? And if so, I mean, Hooker could be off of a lot of quarterbacks or a lot of teams' boards, and even Levis to a certain degree, if they factor in age and they want a guy that's not going to be almost 30 or 30 by the end of their first contract.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's go ahead and get into the rankings. I don't know. I assume you have some rankings, but if you don't, you can just kind of wing it. Let's go ahead and start. Who's your QB1? Let's start strong. Who's got that one spot?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna say it's CJ Stroud. And really one and two is splitting hairs. But for me, it's Stroud because I just everything about his game, I see translating to the next level. There are a lot of questions, obviously, this year about if he can create out of structure. Can he make plays when the pocket is muddy? Can he have good pocket presence? And I feel like he checked off those boxes, not maybe not 100%, but to a certain degree. And I just think the accuracy he throws with, the timing, the touch, just the ability pre-snap to see some things, see post-snap movement, and be able to layer the ball in tight windows and down the sideline and just have the ability that he showed, especially against Georgia, to create with his legs. I think that really gives you encouragement to see what he can do, not only on one of the biggest stages in the college football semifinal, but he did during the season too. There was a couple plays against Iowa. He did that, and throughout some other games as well. So it's not just a one game occurrence. And to me, in both, I can say it's about both Stroud and Young. The last time we saw them in the college uniform, they put on a show, and I think that's I don't want to say it's like part of the evaluation, but I think that kind of shows you separating themselves from the pack. Whereas like Will Levis didn't leave us with the greatest impression the last time he played. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. So it's like with those two, it to me it was a clear gap between Stroud, Young, and then Richardson and Levis for me. And I think that just shows you just how valued, how such a high level that Stroud played with. So for me, I do think there are times for him specifically that he kind of gets himself in trouble trying to create a little bit too much, in kind of bailing out some pockets, especially if he's been getting some pressure and obviously. his mentality, like attacking the middle of the field and down the field. He does make some high throws over the middle, and this has led to some interceptions staring down the middle of the field. But I don't think those things are prevalent consistently in this game. And just kind of part of playing the position. So for me, Stroud was number one, and um, I got to watch him in person for the semifinal game, and getting to see him in person and see what he was able to do to that Georgia defense, and um, really move the ball at will all game long. Even against Michigan, I know it wasn't a perfect game for him, but he was still attacking, still layering some great passes. Just the protection up front broke down and caused him to press a little bit, but Stroud for me is one.
Yeah, I like Stroud a lot. He's my two, but I like Stroud a lot. I think when you compare, because a lot of people have issues with Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't think you. I think you should look at the prospect, not the school. I like Justin Field. I like not Justin Fields. I like CJ Stroud more than I did Justin Fields because I think he's just more polished as a passer. If CJ Stroud is to play in the NFL like he did against Georgia, like you said, Iowa, and consistently plays with that escapability and ability to continue the play. If he plays like that, because he's always had the talent, he's just never really used his legs much. If he consistently plays like he did against Georgia and other teams when he gets to the league, he'll dominate. So I like CJ Stroud a lot. He's my two. Bryce is my one though. I've been a Bryce Young guy for a long time. I get the concerns with the size. It's very valid. I'm not concerned about the height personally because I think he plays a lot bigger, even with his weight. Obviously, it's college, so NFL the weight will matter a bit more. I just think he's dominated in the SEC. He plays much bigger than he is. He throws the ball higher. He doesn't have issues seeing over the middle of the field. That's a lot of issues with shorter quarterbacks. Like I notice it with Kyler Murray a lot is they don't really throw over the middle of the field much. But I don't find that being much of an issue with Bryce Young. I think he just has the X factor, not X factor. He has the it factor that when he could be having a rough game, say Auburn, Iron Bowl, not during his Heisman campaign year, he wasn't having his best game. It wasn't his best. It wasn't one of his best showings. But when it came down to it, final moments, I think there was under a minute left. He had ice in his veins, drove the team downfield, won the game. He did that countless times. It's kind of crazy talking about how CJ Stroud played against Georgia. It's weird because it feels like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young both had their best career games against the toughest defense they faced their entire careers. Because Georgia versus Stroud was probably the toughest defense he ever played, and then I think the defense Bryce Young played the year prior in that SEC championship game, I think that defense was even tougher. I think that was one of the best defenses I've ever seen. Obviously, I didn't watch all the way back during like Miami and those other legendary defenses, but that Georgia defense that Bryce Young tore up was just it was special. And in the national championship game, he had his struggles, but you also have to take into the account the fact that he had lost both of his receivers and all those receivers that Bama did not have the best receiving core. A lot of people like to say that Bama has the best and that should be a knock against their quarterbacks. That was not the case with Bryce Young. It feels like Bryce Young was the best quarterback Bama's ever had, and he was given this year at least probably one of the worst supporting casts they've had in a long time. Because Mac Jones obviously had stacked team, Tua had a stacked team, and so on. But I don't really think I liked many of the receivers that Bama had this past year. They were all young guys. A lot of them were up and down. A lot of them have promising futures, but none of them pop right now as guys that are going to be like even John Mechie wasn't a perfect player. He was like a second or third round pick. He had some issues, but they didn't have a Jameson Williams type player. They didn't have a Jerry Judy type player. It was Bryce Young creating and carrying that team in some positions to wins that I don't think they would have gotten without a guy like Bryce Young. So just I value that it factor, and I think CJ Stroud has it too. I just think Bryce Young has it a little bit different, and his pocket presence is pretty crazy to me as well. And his size, the weight is a concern, but I feel like I've seen that. I feel like I've seen him take some tough hits and just get right up. So I'm not, the concerns are valid, but they don't turn me off as much as they do other people. So I've got Bryce Young 1, CJ Stroud 2. I think they're both definitely separating from the pack because CJ Stroud just has amazing ball placement, and Bryce Young has amazing playmaking ability. I think they're easily 1 and 2. I think Carolina is probably between Stroud or Richardson. I don't think I buy Frank Reich being a guy into a smaller quarterback. I've seen some mock drafts recently that say they're taking Bryce Young. I just think he's easily third in their book right now, but I could be very wrong. I'm not in any meetings or anything. So I've got Bryce Young 1, CJ Stroud 2. CJ Stroud very well could go 1. Anthony Richardson could go 1, depending on that. But yeah, I assume Bryce Young's your 2. I'll let you take it away on your thoughts on Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce Young's two for me. I think just for him, it's I don't want to say the game is easy, but it just seems like he's always finding ways to make plays, even on dead plays. And um you're really never out of a game. I mean, you think about his losses, they have all come down to the fourth quarter, and come down to crunch time. And he is always engineering some sort of drive to either take the lead or tie the game or put them in position to win the game. So just from that aspect, he's such a creative player in and out of the pocket, and you talked about the size not affecting his ability to attack the middle of the field. Um, it definitely shows up, in terms of him being able to create passing lanes for himself and finding lanes to throw the football. And for someone as short as him, he doesn't really get the ball knocked down at the line of scrimmage as much as you would think a smaller quarterback would. So I think that those are all pluses for him. To me, I think probably the four quarterbacks I would say is like just pure arms, probably like three or four out of the top four, I would say, in terms of he's not going to blow you away with, throwing like 70, 80-yard passes or, have crazy zip on passes like Will Levis has. But I think he's comfortable with, you know, what he's able to do just as a thrower. He's uh, has accuracy on the move, accuracy in the pocket. You really don't see too many just bad misses or routine misses. Like he pretty much hits all his layups, like there's no issues with that. And then obviously just the ability to create out of the pocket and keep plays alive and find players and throw on the rope, really in that intermediate area, like 15 to 20-yard areas. So for me, he was two for me, just by hair. I think he has a great pocket presence. Obviously, I won't say an outlier anymore because he's not really an outlier, but just a smaller quarterback that we've not seen much be have the greatest success. But I think just his ability to be accurate at all levels of the field, always create out of structure and um, always find a way to make plays and distribute the ball evenly. I think that's an underrated part of his game is to throw to everybody. He's not just gonna lock in on one player. He's gonna throw it down to the running back, to the tight end, to the third or fourth receiver. So I think his distribution ability is probably the best in the class. Just getting all those players involved in getting needed first downs when whether it's third and long, with the game on the line or second and 10. He's always making good plays with his arm. So really enjoy Bryce Young's game and an easy number two for me.
All right. So now this is where I think it's starting to become semi consensus, but it's still sort of different for some people. My 3 is Anthony Richardson. I think he has the highest upside of the class. He's young. He's barely played. Um, if you look at his tape, his worst games come against Kentucky and USF, which were his third and fourth starts ever, which his coach didn't really help him much because they probably should have just ran the ball more. But he's still raw. It's definitely visible. His accuracy is up and down. I think that's a result of his footwork, less so just being just inaccurate. I think it's footwork leading to inaccuracy. I think he has tremendous pocket presence, especially for a guy who's played such a little amount of time. Anthony Richardson just has that feel in the pocket. He'll step. It's also more so than just pocket presence. His pocket ability to move. He can move. He can step forward. He can step up in the pocket so quickly. There's not any doubt. The play against Tennessee, where he threw his first passing touchdown of the season, he had a fairly deep drop, and he stepped up in the pocket very fast and got the ball out. He just has incredible pocket movement ability, athleticism. He's going to have that Justin Fields type ability to run season one. He's going to have that Justin Fields ability to run. He's going to have that ability on the ground that even if he doesn't start year one, I think teams could put him in on packages where he could still throw it. He still has a very good ability to throw it, but he could also just take it and essentially be a running back if they need it on that play and have more guys in the box. So there's a lot of things you could do with a guy like Anthony Richardson. I think he has the strongest arm in the class. Some people might think Will Levis, but the ball just pops off Anthony Richardson's arm and he can send it as far down the field as you want. It's just a special arm talent. So my thing was, because a lot of people love upside quarterbacks one way or another. Some people don't. What makes me different about Anthony Richardson? Because I was not a Malik Willis guy. Everybody who knows me and knows a lot of the stuff I say, I was not a I was not a Malik Willis guy. I didn't think Malik Willis was much of an NFL quarterback. I thought he was just a highlight kind of player who tremendous arm talent, tremendous running ability. I just felt like he didn't have great pocket presence. His accuracy was up and down. I didn't think he had the quarterback abilities, the passing instincts. Anthony Richardson, on the other hand, he's not a run first guy. He's got that pocket presence. He knows where he wants to put the ball. His decision making is overall pretty good, and he makes reads on the field. He's a tick slow. He could speed up his reads, but I think that's also just playing minimal amount. He just has passing instincts that show he could become a high level passer on top of a high level runner. I don't think he's limited to being just a running quarterback. He could be a high level passer like Josh Allen once became. If Josh Allen can go 7 overall, with the way he looked coming out of college and against the competition he played, I think Anthony Richardson can go top 10 with his type of talent, which I think is more talented than Josh Allen. I don't think he has a Josh Allen arm. I think he has a top 5 caliber arm, but I don't think he necessarily has Josh Allen arm, but he's more athletic than Josh Allen. I think he's way faster. He can hurdle like Josh Allen. He has the power of Josh Allen. Like he said, he likes to play like Lamar and Cam Newton, which take that how you will, but I think he can play like that if he wants to. So if he can get with a coach who can fix his footwork issues mainly and speed up his game a little bit, I think he could be a guy. He does have some injury concerns, I guess you could say. He didn't really get hurt. He didn't miss games in 2022, but he looked clearly affected at times. Against Kentucky, somebody went low on him, and then he started to get rattled, didn't really run that game. Because FSU, he got hurt, went out for a little bit, came back in, looked rattled at times, didn't really run the ball like you'd think he would. He got hurt in 2021, and that's why he didn't start over Emory Jones for a lot of the year. Injuries are a valid concern when it comes to him because of the way he does run the ball. But long story short, if you want an upside guy, Anthony Richardson's your guy. He can become a high level passer. He just has some things he's got to fix right now. The passing instincts are there. The running ability is there. Everything is there. He's a guy. Plus, he's also a great leader. Reports have been that he's been great in meetings. I met the guy. Nothing to complain about. Who's your 3?
Yeah, three for me is also Anthony Richardson. Um, in really a lot of things you highlighted, but I think for me, you see the tools and the want to be a high level passer. You can see in his games that sure there's a lot of inconsistency. The placement is always there, but um, he's really trying to move middle of the field defenders and trying to create throwing lanes for himself and trying to lead his receivers and manipulate the pocket and not just take off and run, but trying to make plays on the move too and keeping his eyes down the field. Um, and really it's all about experience for me. He's only had one full season of starting. Was thrown kind of in the fire a couple years ago, but wasn't truly given the reins to play at Florida, play under a new system as well. So a lot of things to kind of take into consideration. The footwork definitely is an issue, but is not something is unfixable. It's certainly fixable, and there's really nothing mechanically, throwing wise that you would change. The ball flies off his hand, a very quick release, just everything in terms of playing the quarterback position, he has the tools to do. Like this is not a guy that's going to come in and you're like, okay, he's going to take 2 or 3 years to really develop him. Honestly, I think you give him some time to really learn the NFL offense, get some stability, and have stability within the building. I think that's the biggest thing is that he's had to change coaches and change offense philosophies and sit behind players. So he really hasn't gotten a chance to show his true talent at the highest level, and he was able to do that for a few games, but then you mentioned like battling some injuries and then not running as much. So once he's like fully unleashed, I think you're going to see a lot of wild plays from him. I think you're still going to be see a lot of work in progress. And I wonder if a team that takes him, has those kind of packages put in for him to kind of get used to NFL speed and allow him to use his athleticism and get the feel of the NFL offense and get some continuity. So I'm certainly hoping for sure that the upside is clearly there, and the situation has to be right, in my opinion, for him to truly be successful.
I definitely agree. All right. After three for me is where I think the top three are the top three. And then after that, not many rankings can make me mad or completely disagree. I think everybody else is just a step below because Will Levis is my four, but I'm not very high on Will Levis. I haven't been for a long time. He's a very toolsy guy. A lot of people like to compare to Josh Allen. I don't particularly see that. I see the tools, but I don't see that in his game. Um, he can run the ball, and it's really just the tools for me. I don't like many quarterbacks in this class. I don't have any other. Actually, the top three are the only first round grades I gave out for quarterbacks. After that, it's second, third, and beyond. I probably have a two or three on Will Levis just because he has the traits, but I'd probably take him in the third round, kind of like last year's quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback I had worth a first round pick, and then after that, it's second, third, whenever you decide to, and they all ended up going in the third round. I think that's kind of I Will Levis is probably going to go first round. I don't think what's happened last year is going to happen to Will Levis, but I wouldn't be mad if that happened because I have him as a two or three level player. He's got the tools, but his pocket presence scares me a lot. He doesn't have that feel all the time. Unblocked rushers or just rushers who beat their man, he just won't even know they're coming a lot of the time, which has led to a lot of fumbles. I think his decision making is an issue. Um, he didn't play in a good offense for sure. He had no help. Wandale Robinson caught like 50% of his passes last year, and then Wandale left, and then it was an even bigger mess. But I think his accuracy can be an issue. I'm not a You talked about Anthony Richardson. You like his mechanics. I love Anthony Richardson's mechanics. Will Levis, on the other hand, I think his motion is a little short rather than Justin Fields. When people talked about Justin Fields' motion, it was really long. I think Will Levis is on the other side of the spectrum. I think it's really short, which that short motion does give him a lot of velocity on the ball in short outside the numbers plays, but I think it does hinder his accuracy at times down the field or over the middle of the field or in the very short area. I think he needs to improve his accuracy. I think his decision making isn't the best. I'm not a fan of his pocket presence, but I like his traits, and that's why I have him as my four. That's really it. There are things to like, but there's also a lot not to like, and that's kind of why I have him as a second or third round pick grade wise. He'll probably go mid to late first, but grade wise, I have him as a second or third round pick.
Yeah,
Um,
Levis is a tough one to figure out because he clearly took a step back in 22 after a pretty good 21. You thought he might even, and I thought he could have potentially gone first round last year if he came out and decided to go through the process, especially with kind of the big drop off after Kenny Pickett was selected towards the end of the first round to the next selected quarterback in the class last year. But I think with Levis is you're clearly getting a guy that has the physical makeup to be at least a I'll say slightly above average quarterback at the NFL level. I don't think he necessarily has star potential. I think he can be a solid starting quarterback at the NFL level. Obviously, Kentucky under Liam Cohen, 21, ran an NFL offense. In 22, I think they kept some of those same concepts as well. And really, him throwing over the middle of the field, he's one of the better prospects at doing so. Like especially in the short and inner area of the field, he's able to hit his targets and throw on time, throwing with pace, and leading his receiver and throwing to some nice windows. So that's going to be a big part of it. I think the play action game for him is going to be huge at the NFL level. I think that's when he's at his best, when he can turn around and quickly deliver a pass, to over the middle of the field or into the boundary. And generally speaking, I think he's a pretty good solid quarterback in the short and intermediate game. I think he certainly footwork wise can be a lot cleaner, especially in the short game. I think he misses layups quite a bit, especially in 22. The deep ball is certainly there leaves a lot to be desired because you see the ability he can get it out there, but the placement is all often short, and it's not leading his receiver. And the thought process is correct, like throwing to single high posts across the field, and he leaves it a couple yards short, and the guy still makes the catch, but you leave some yak on the field. So I think consistency with the deep ball is certainly going to have to be there. I think his internal clock needs to be a bit quicker. There's certainly some times where he's just not feeling the pressure quick enough, and kind of gets swallowed up by the kind of the penetration from the defense. And um, I think it just has to improve. It has to be quicker. Decision making has to be a little bit quicker as well too. I just think sometimes he hangs on that first and second read a little bit too long instead of getting his eyes to the third, fourth guy. I think there's quite a bit of times on film where if he surveyed the left side of the field after scanning the right side of the field instead of like just holding on to the ball, I think you have more opportunities for completion. So I think he's still a bit of an unfinished product in terms of his development. I think certainly the encouraging sign is that he was willing to hang in the pocket and still deliver some passes under pressure. I thought that was something that he improved from 21 instead of just taking off and running. He hung in there and tried to get through his progressions, but I do think the internal clock needs to be a bit quicker, and I just think he needs to continue to round out his game because like you see the development from where he was at Penn State to when he got to Kentucky. He made a big jump in 21 and 22. I just don't think he took that next jump in feeling the pressure a little bit better. And finding that third and fourth options, and hitting his check down quicker if there was nothing downfield. And then, being a bit smarter as a runner. I think he was a little banged up, so you didn't see him much as a runner. But I think if he can kind of put those things together, you got a quarterback that can be like in that 10 to 15 range at best, I would say. But I don't think he's compared to those other three guys. I don't think he's ever going to be in that top five echelon discussion. But do think he can be a solid starting quarterback, and I think the fifth year option will be nice with him versus like a Hendon Hooker, who I'm sure we're going to talk about here soon, um, because of that he's going to take steps in his development, and I think he can be a solid starting quarterback at the NFL level. But I just don't think he's the star power of those other three names.
So I assume Will Levis is your four.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
He's my fourth guy after Richardson. So it's Stroud, Young, Richardson, and Levis for me.
Who is your five?
For me, it's Hendon Hooker, from Tennessee. Um, for me, I understand the offense he played in wasn't exactly translatable, but I did like the accuracy through the ball with, and his ability to place passes, specifically on deep passes, on the outside shoulder consistently. Um, and I like his running ability, his dual threat ability to create on the move. Um, I did find myself though, or find times though, that he's kind of a streaky passer almost. Like I feel like there were times where he would hit a couple in a row, and you can see him kind of really start to gain confidence. But there was other games, like the LSU game was like a weird one for me, like where he was a little all over the place. He would, hit passes, and then go a stretch of like three or four where he was throwing it too far, or overthrow or underthrow, or just throw it slightly behind. For me, I think the timing routes over the middle of the field, for me, they were always a touch behind the receiver, and not leading them all the time. I thought that limited some opportunities for some yak opportunities for receivers and tight ends. Um, and I just thought, for me, like getting through the reads a little bit quicker, I thought were something that I wanted to see a little bit more of, and like getting through, getting from left to right a little bit quicker. I think, especially in some of his tougher games, specifically the Georgia game, where that first or second option was taken away, and he was kind of trying to figure out what to do next. He kind of just took off and run. So I think the development of him like becoming a full field reader is going to take some time, and not on the half field reads, or the quick down the field reads. I think the deep ball is nice. The athleticism he has is nice. I think generally he's an accurate quarterback. But I think there certainly leaves some more to be desired in terms of the consistency in which he hits those passes. And I thought the intermediate area where Levis really thrives, Stroud thrives, Young thrives. I thought Hooker was a bit behind those guys in terms of hitting those consistently. Obviously, the RPO action was nice, and then his ability to get the ball out quickly. I think his release is nice too, as a passer. But I think in terms of being a distributor, and being able to read defense a little bit quicker, I think that those are things that they're gonna take some time for him to develop, and ultimately keep him off the field of year one, and obviously recovering from the ACL injury as well.
Yeah, for me, my five is actually Tanner McKee. I'm a lot of these, once you get past the top four, I think they're all third round picks at third third round picks to day three guys. Tanner McKee, he's like another Davis Mills kind of to me. They both played at Stanford, and they both stand in the pocket. They both distribute the ball well, and they're both fairly accurate. Neither is really super mobile. He's not going to make a ton of plays for you, but I think if you need uh, somebody to get in there and be able to distribute the ball downfield, make some reads, and have some solid pocket presence. I think you can get Tanner McKee to do that. It's kind of pick your poison. I don't think he's particularly amazing at anything, but I don't think outside of just being not that mobile, I don't think he's particularly terrible at anything either. He had an interesting career at Stanford. I believe he took a year off. I might be wrong, but I thought Tanner McKee was going to be in last year's draft class, and then he didn't. He's another. A lot of these guys are older. Tanner McKee, I think he's just a solid player who could be a third or fourth round pick, maybe as a solid backup, maybe a guy who could actually play for you at some point if you want. I don't see him. I don't foresee him being a starting caliber guy, but Davis Mills got starts, so you never know. When you get past that, my 6 is Jake Hayner. This one's an interesting one. I was tough between him and Hendon Hooker because I think Hendon Hooker is just sort of the slam dunk kind of pick to have there. But Jake Hayner, he's young. He did get hurt, I believe, but I think he's got some good arm talent. I think he's got a lot of upside. So if you're going to pick a guy that could be a solid backup, but also could maybe actually develop into something, Jake Hayner would be that guy. And that's just kind of why I have him ranked over Hendon Hooker. I'm just going to roll through these 3 real quick because I got Hendon Hooker at 7. And Hendon Hooker, my issue is when you have a guy that's coming off an ACL, is already 25, and you still have to say that he needs to develop some things, like severely develop some things. That's when I start to get like really I'm not a fan. Because like you said, he was very streaky. That was a good point. His pocket presence is what kills me the most. Because I feel he either chooses to just leave the pocket and either run the ball straight up or just leave the pocket immediately, or he just stands like an. People called Kyle. I know I bring up Kyle Trask just because I'm a Kyle Trask fan, but this is just an actual thing. I remember people called Kyle Trask and Mac Jones statues, and they're not super mobile. They didn't really extend many plays. Hendon Hooker feels like a genuine statue when he doesn't just immediately run the ball. There's a play against Alabama. It looked like his controller died. He just stood there and let the guy sack him when he could have just stepped to the right, stepped to the left, moved anywhere, and he would have been able to get the pass off. But he just kind of stands there. He's very statuesque. His pocket presence, he doesn't really have a great feel, in my opinion. It leads to a lot of fumbles. When he gets under pressure against Georgia, LSU, some other teams, he gets really rocked and just all over the place. That's when his accuracy becomes kind of an issue at times. I'm not a fan of the Tennessee offense. I think Tennessee's offense is great when it comes to college because they're quick, line up quickly. They got a set amount of plays. You just keep running them. Your receivers are good. They just keep winning. NFL wise, I don't think that really translates. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but the true drop back set numbers, when you look at them of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, I think it might have been 15% of his snaps were true drop back pass. A lot of them were RPOs, quick throws. I think his offense just was, like many people say, a gimmick, a collegey offense that hides a lot of things. And yeah, I think there's some stuff to like. I think Hendon Hooker could be a good NFL backup for a long time, but an older guy that has as many issues as he does and was in an offense like he was, I don't think he's any better than Matt Corral was in his so you could say gimmick offense at Ole Miss. I'm just not a Hendon Hooker guy, but I think he could be a respectable backup for quite a while. I hope he bounces back because he was a fun story in college. It was fun. I'm a Florida fan, so I hate seeing Tennessee prosper, but damn, Tennessee was good last year, and he was a big reason why. Though that's my 5, 6, 7, just so I could catch up on Hendon Hooker. Who is your 6?
Yeah, for me, Jake Hayner's at 6. I really like his game, and like he's a bit of a smaller prospect too. But I thought he was a really good player in terms of layering the ball over the middle of the field and generally being accurate, having the pocket presence, be able to move off platform, off structure, um, and just be able to maneuver pockets that were collapsing around him. So I really like his game. I thought he did get hurt for a little bit for I think about 4 or 5 weeks with Fresno, and just wasn't the same mobility wise, but he's such a tough player. I think he's probably a career backup, but I think you're getting a guy that can, be a spot starter. Really cerebral, high character player. A lot of people have played with him, enjoy playing with him and his leadership ability. So I think he's really going to stick in the NFL locker room. So he's my number 6. Number 7 is Tanner McKee. I think he is more of a guy I think is probably gonna be somewhere in between being a starter and a backup. I like his size, his ability to be accurate, have some touch on some deep passes. Not overly mobile, not overly athletic, but I think he can be kind of a nice guy to have, especially on day 3 that you just bring in and see what you can get out of them because Stanford's offense obviously is um, not a great offense to play in. Especially over the last couple of years. Even Davis Mills has some issues with really having consistency in that offense and kind of the lack of athletes they had separating on the outside. I know they have Michael Wilson, who is a really good receiving prospect, but even he has some question marks coming in to the Senior Bowl. So I think McKee for me was 7, and then 8 for me is Dorian Thompson Robinson, the UCLA quarterback, who I think can really carve out a nice career in a RPO, driven offense that is predicated on quarterback movement and would extend plays. So I really like his ability to do that. The interceptions are head scratching. The fumbles he has, some of the decision making he makes in general are a little bit head scratching. But I think you're getting a guy that's going to be a really really solid player. Um, you give him the opportunity to use his legs in a run game and really kind of thrive in that sort of out of structure ability. So I think he's a guy that maybe you can draft and stash, have him as a QB3, really start to develop and learn your offense. And you have a veteran in place to be the QB2. He learns from those top 2 quarterbacks and eventually takes the reins as a QB2 permanently. I could see him having a Tyrod Taylor-esque career if everything pans out correctly for him. And he could really turn down or tone down the turnovers because the backup quarterback is just as important as your star quarterback. So I think he has that ability, and I really like his game.
Yeah, for me, my 8 is Aiden O'Connell. I think Aiden O'Connell, again, kind of like I said with Tanner McKee, he's not really great at anything, but he's pretty solid at most things. He was a really good distributor for Purdue for a long time. He went through quite a few things. I believe his brother passed away. Aiden O'Connell, he has size. He just feels like a long-term NFL backup, a guy who's going to be a QB2/3 for the next decade, CJ Beathard type thing, Jaguars wise, just a long-term backup who could play some snaps for you if your quarterback gets hurt. Not a guy you want to start, but you never really want a backup to start, of course. He's never going to be a kind of guy who's going to surpass somebody to start, but I think he'll be a guy who's going to stick around the league for a long time, making that backup check. And yeah, I like Aiden O'Connell as that kind of player. Then I have as my 9, I have Jaron Hall. I was higher on Jaron Hall initially, and then I really lowered again back to where he is at 9. I think he's gonna go. I think he might end up going down another spot to 10 because I think I'm increasing on Dorian Thompson Robinson, which I'll get to him shortly. But Jaron Hall, he's another older kind of guy who played at BYU. Just because he played at BYU doesn't mean he's Zach Wilson, because I know a lot of people immediately go that direction. with BYU quarterbacks now, but he's just an interesting kind of player. Another guy who could be a QB3 for a long time, maybe move up to a QB2 with some talent that he has. Jaren Hall's just, he's a solid player. He's got a lot that you want to work on, but he's also, I think he's an NFL backup caliber guy. Then you got 11, or not 11, I mean 10 is Clayton Tune, which that's going to go down to, it's going to go down a spot probably when I move up Dorian Thompson Robinson. But Clayton Tune, he put up really good numbers at Houston. He's got good size. He's another kind of inconsistent player on tape. He has some issues. He's not very mobile, but again, backup career, maybe a QB3, probably a late day 3 pick to me. Then back to where finally catching up to you on Dorian Thompson Robinson. I've actually kind of started to realize, because I knew he was a toolsy guy. He was a fun athlete, made some really cool highlight plays, but I didn't realize that dude was carrying a cannon that he is, because I rewatched the tape after and actually kind of saw it when at the combine they did the throw the ball as hard as you can, see how fast it goes. He had the highest speed on the ball. I was like, I didn't know DTR was carrying a cannon like that. I watched the tape and he does have a cannon. So he's another athletic player who has a cannon, who you like you could say you could store him as a QB3 who could maybe eventually develop into a QB2 kind of player. He's got the talent to do that. Like you said, the turnovers are very confusing with Dorian Thompson Robinson, because he either has an amazing game, like 4 touchdowns, including rushing, a ton of yards, UCLA wins, or he has a 4 interception, 2 touchdown, UCLA loses. They kind of lived and died by the Dorian Thompson Robinson turnover game. But yeah, that's my 11. That's my 11. But he'll probably move up to 9, because I'm starting to like the traits more on him than Clayton Tune and Jaren Hall. So they're all day 3 guys to me, but it is what it is. How does the rest of your rankings go?
Yeah, for me, Jaron Hall is number 9. I like his ability to get the pass or get passes down the field. Especially in the vertical game. I thought that was his best trait. As a vertical thrower, I think he has a really nice deep ball. Really puts it in the bucket. Athleticism with his legs can make plays on the move and extend plays as well. Um, and just seems like a high character player just in general. Getting to talk to him at the combine and how teammates speak of him, and obviously going to BYU and the faith he has too. I think you're getting a guy that's going to come in and compete. For me, it was a bit of a struggle with footwork and just sailing passes inexplicably. And I just think more so it has more to do with his footwork and I think he has some lingering issues too, lingering injury issues that he played with during the season too that kind of affected his throwing a little bit. And I just didn't think his pocket presence was great overall. But when he did get away and did have time to throw, I thought the timing routes were his best go-to move, especially throwing the corner route and then vertical wise. So I think there's a lot to like and to work with in his game. Number 10 for me is Clayton Tune. I really like his ability to just be kind of a distributor, like we talked about with Bryce Young, but to a smaller degree. Thought he's just kind of, I don't want to say I think he's your average day 3 quarterback that had a lot of success in college, that can distribute the ball, that could potentially be a nice backup option to have on the roster. But I don't think he has any like overwhelming traits that make you go like, yeah, I want this guy on my team. I think he can deliver the ball accurately in the short game and intermediate game. Has a decent deep ball too. But I think overall he's just more so of just a guy. Like he's a solid player that could carve out a decent career as a backup. But I don't see anything particularly special traits wise. I just think he's a solid quarterback all around. Not a ton of holes in this game, but you're not getting an upside guy. You're getting more of a high floor player that will be probably in that backup level. And then 11 for me is Tyson Bagent from Shepherd, Division 2. Watched him before the Senior Bowl, so that's why he made my rankings. I think there's some intrigue there. I think he's going to be certainly a draft and stash player, probably in round 6 or 7, if he does get drafted. But certainly a high priority UDFA. If not, I think he has a pretty good arm. Really excelled in the back shoulder game, down the field and vertically. Did a nice job, extending plays. Decent athlete as a runner. But I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Obviously, going from D2 to the NFL game. The speed is going to be worrisome a little bit. The speed of the game and how he operates in that. But overall, I like Bajent's game. I think he's probably going to be a QB3, be a practice squad type player, but I think he could carve out a nice career, just in NFL in general.
Yeah, I don't have Bajan in my rankings, but I have heard good things about him for as a potential day 3 quarterback. My rankings round out with just Stetson Bennett and Max Duggan. I both have them as UDFAs. Stetson Bennett had a long career. He's older. He's actually more athletic than some people would expect, but I don't think he has a particularly strong arm. He turns the ball over for some reason. Like his turnover stats don't even look that bad, but I feel like when I watch him, his turnovers look worse. Maybe because he just looks terrible against Florida every single year and they still win. Stetson Bennett is like a practice squad guy, maybe. He's improved over his career. I'll give him that, but I just don't really see anything besides being successful in college. I don't really know. A lot of people, I've noticed a lot of people tending to be Georgia fans, try to compare him to Bryce Young because if Bryce Young, a small guy, can go high, then why can't Stetson Bennett? I don't think Stetson Bennett has the traits of Bryce Young, the accuracy of Bryce Young, the decision making, so on. You get the point. Max Duggan is someone, he's in that Tim Tebow kind of area where he's like a fun college quarterback who can run, but not really an NFL passer. Whenever he needed to pass the ball, TCU kind of struggled. I think they're both just UDFAs at best if they get signed. And that's how my QB rankings round out. You finish yours?
Yeah, I just got to 11 guys so far. Stetson Bennett is going to be on that list of guys. He's probably going to fit in somewhere towards the end of that list for sure. A couple other quarterbacks I want to get to, but yeah, that's the 11 I have for right now. So just running back through them. Two, 3 and 4 is 5. Hooker 6 is I don't know. Like Jake Haener. 7 is Tanner McKee. 8 Dorian Thompson Robinson. 9 is Jaron Hall. 10 is Clayton Tune. Then 11 is Tyson Bagent.
And for me, I have Bryce 1, CJ Stroud 2, Anthony Richardson 3, Will Levis 4, Tanner McKee 5, Jake Haener 6, Hendon Hooker 7, Aiden O'Connell 8, Jaron Hall 9, Clayton Tune 10, Dorian Thompson Robinson 11, Bennett 13, Bennett 12, and Duggan 13. But DTR will probably end up being 9 when things are all said and done. So that's our QB rankings. The Jaguars don't need a quarterback this year, thankfully. So don't really need to talk about that. Thank you, Devin, for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. It was great to talk some ball about the quarterbacks. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate the time you took on your birthday to talk with me.
Yeah,
Happy birthday again, and
appreciate that.
hope you enjoy it. And yeah, great to come on and talk with you. And if you need me to come on again, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Sounds good. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys later this week, probably. Peace.